of saying to me that weather doesn't influence violent crime. So I'm like, I know this is wrong. So what do? You're with the University of Chicago and someone says something, you do a project, right? And so the idea was, how can we leverage the enormity of the weather data, and how can we take crime data to build smart predictive models? And the funny thing about this is data that's all open data. So for this system, this is driven by census data that we have available in the US, all of the crime data, which I just happened to release in 2011, and then weather data, which one of our federal agencies releases terabytes of weather data. It's hard to use, but we invested the work into building this. So what are you looking at? So again, this is a pretty picture on top of some complexity. So we suck in all of the weather data, we suck in the crime data and the census data, we deal with it all spatially, so every point has a spatial bound, and then we push it into a neural network. We built this on top of the Argonne National Lab supercomputer, which is one of our big national labs. It's partnered with the University of Chicago. And what we did is we predicted hour by hour, based on spatial attributes, where the violence would occur in Chicago. So from 0 to 72 hours, we have a model for each one of these, and every hour we re-predict. And then the nice thing about this is when you introduce in weather, your accuracy improves substantially. But the funny thing about weather, because I know there's a profound interest in weather and crime in the room, is that it's not just about straight weather. It's not when it's hot out there's crime. We found that it's changes in weather. So we created this whole subset of the data which calculates the changes. There's all these calculated values, so if it's 50 degrees yesterday, sorry, Fahrenheit, and it becomes 75 degrees today, your slope increase is substantial. That slope is more meaningful than the actual temperature. And you find all of these things. So when you start to think about this based on resources, you start to say, how do I drive a smarter city? So everyone here has been exposed to the idea of smarter cities, right? You see these really great commercials where like the sidewalks move and wonderful things are happening. Not there yet, but with all this data, remember, open data, you're able to do really, really smart things that can actually help the city operate in a smarter way in highly accurate, operationally useful techniques. And again, if you go back to the other slide, remember what I said about microgeographies. If I start to think about things like right here is a whole neighborhood, but I clearly don't need to worry about right there. When we put things together, it dilutes it. We need to be thinking about our cities in a microgeographic way, and we can make smart, tailored decisions. And this is super exciting. So to sort of tie this together, I do want to leave you with these key themes. Like many people in the room are thinking about how they can be impactful. And there's lots of cities that can provide lessons that sort of help you think about that, but think about all of these pieces and think about all the sort of strengths you have, but then think about who can provide that executive support and your own personal risk tolerance. Thank you.